Detective Samantha Hayes had seen the worst that humanity could offer, but nothing had prepared her for the case that landed on her desk that rainy October morning. Ravenwood was no stranger to crime, but the brutality and precision of the recent string of murders left the entire city on edge. Victims, seemingly unconnected, were found with a single black feather left on their bodies, a signature of a killer who had come to be known as the Raven. Samantha, in her mid-30s, was a seasoned detective with a sharp mind and an unyielding determination. Her partner, Detective Mark Benson, a methodical investigator in his early 40s, joined her as they stared at the crime board covered with photos, notes, and timelines. "The killer's meticulous," Mark remarked, his brow furrowed. "No mistakes, no trace of evidence." Samantha nodded. "The feather is the only clue, and it's frustratingly cryptic. We need to find the pattern, the connection between the victims. The first victim was a young artist, the second a retired teacher, the third a local business owner. No apparent link, yet something nagged at Samantha's mind. She couldn't shake the feeling that the answer was staring them in the face. That evening, as Samantha sifted through the case files at her cluttered desk, a flash of insight hit her. She grabbed her phone and called Mark. "Meet me at the station. I think I've got something." They reconvened in the dimly lit office, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Samantha pointed to a map of the city. "Look at the locations where the bodies were found. They form a triangle, all pointing towards one area, the Blackthorn district." Mark's eyes widened. "The abandoned district? It's been deserted for years." "Exactly," Samantha said. "But it wasn't always. It used to be a thriving community until a series of fires drove everyone out. What if our killer has a connection to that place?" The next day, they ventured into the Blackthorn district, a ghost town of crumbling buildings and overgrown streets. The air was thick with the scent of decay, and an eerie silence pervaded the area. As they explored, they stumbled upon an old library, its facade charred from the past fires. Inside, dust-covered books lined the shelves, and cobwebs hung like curtains. Samantha and Mark split up to cover more ground. As Samantha scanned the rows of books, her flashlight caught a glint of something metallic behind a shelf. She reached in and pulled out a rusted tin box. Opening it, she found old photographs, newspaper clippings, and letters. One letter in particular caught her eye. It was addressed to Amara Blackthorn and detailed a series of experiments on human psychology conducted by a clandestine group known as the Order of Shadows. "Samantha, over here." Mark's voice echoed from the other side of the library. She rushed over to find him holding a faded ledger. "Look at this. It's a list of names and dates people who went missing around the time of the fires." Samantha scanned the list, her heart pounding. These names, they match the victims. The killer is targeting descendants of the Order's experiments. A creak of floorboards behind them made them spin around. A figure emerged from the shadows, a man in his late 50s, with a cold, calculating gaze and a black feather in his hand. "Detectives," he said, his voice smooth and chilling. "You've found my sanctuary. Who are you?" Samantha demanded, her hand hovering over her holstered gun. The man smiled. "I am Dr. Adrian Blackthorn, the last of the Order. You see, the experiments were not just on human psychology, but on perfecting the human mind. My ancestors believed in creating a superior being. I'm simply finishing their work." Mark drew his weapon. "You're coming with us." Dr. Blackthorn laughed, a sound that sent shivers down their spines. "Do you really think it's that simple?" In a swift motion, he threw the black feather at them, releasing a cloud of fine powder. Samantha and Mark stumbled back, their vision blurring, but Samantha managed to pull the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the library, and Dr. Blackthorn fell, clutching his shoulder. Backup arrived moments later, securing the area and taking the injured Dr. Blackthorn into custody. As Samantha and Mark regained their senses, they realized they had uncovered a conspiracy that went back generations. In the days that followed, They pieced together the story of the Order of Shadows and their twisted legacy. Dr. Blackthorn's arrest brought some closure to the families of the victims, but the scars of his actions would linger in Ravenwood. Samantha stood on the steps of the police station, watching the sun rise over the city. Mark joined her, his face etched with exhaustion and relief. "We did it," he said quietly. "We stopped him." Samantha nodded, her eyes fixed on the horizon. "But there's always another shadow, another secret waiting to be uncovered. We have to stay vigilant." As they walked back inside, ready to face whatever came next, Samantha knew that the darkness of Ravenwood would never fully recede. But with partners like Mark, she was ready to confront it head-on, bringing light to the shadows and justice to those who needed it most.